On today's episode of Gold Star Stories, I sit down with Natalie Brett, a wife, a mother, and now a widow navigating a kind of loss that often goes unseen. Her husband, Sergeant Daniel Brett, served honorably, but like so many others, he carried wounds home that no one could see. In 2021, those wounds took him. This is a conversation about invisible battles, about what happens when a soldier comes home but doesn't feel safe in his own mind, about what it means to love someone through the storm and lose them anyways. Natalie doesn't just tell the story of Daniel's death, she tells the story of his life, of a man who made people laugh, who loved fiercely, who showed up for his family, his brother in arms, and his country. She's here to shine a light on the realities of military suicide, the stigma, the silence, and the devastating aftermath. This isn't easy to hear, but it's necessary because if we're going to say we support our troops, that means all of them, especially the ones who are still fighting long after the war is over.
Marine Captain Brian Letendre died earlier this month in an explosion in Iraq. He was 27, a husband and father, and he was buried in Arlington National Cemetery, a few miles from where he grew up. As America observes Memorial Day,
I have been directed by the President of the United States and the Commandant of the Marine Corps to inform you that today, 0530, your son was killed in action while in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom.
not very many of us can accomplish our goals or our dreams, and he always knew where he wanted to go, and he did it.
A Gold Star family is one who has lost a loved one serving in the United States military. It's a distinction no family ever seeks, a bond shared through sacrifice, remembrance, and profound loss. I'm Nick Letendre, and I've been a Gold Star sibling for over 18 years. In those 18 years, I've learned that while ceremonies fade, medals are stored away, and life continues, the story doesn't end for the families left behind. This podcast is dedicated to remembering those who gave everything for their country and to telling the lesser-known stories, the quiet, powerful journeys of grief, strength, resilience, and hope that follows after the flags are folded and the crowds disperse. These are Gold Star Stories. Natalie, thank you so much for joining us, and
I'm excited.
Let's start out a little bit. I want to hear about your husband to start. Let's get to know him as a person and then how you guys met.
Ooh. Okay. His name is Daniel. Let's tell you about him first. He was an amazing human. He was all, military. He was one of those guys. He either, intimidated you or, he loved you. He was a great father, a great husband. On his grave marker, I have hero and protector because that's who he truly was down to his core. And not just with me and the children and the family, but just anybody he worked with or he came across. He's one of those that opened the door for you and helped the little old ladies across the street, but he was this big dude, tough dude that was an army military police officer. So yeah, he was my whole world. So kind of how we got together. We had actually known each other since junior high. We were in band together. He played football. He was my first big crush. He just never knew it. And going through junior high and high school together, we never dated. It was just always kind of just a mutual friendship type thing. And then he, after we graduated, I kind of did my thing. He did his thing. He went to college in Missouri on a wrestling scholarship. He was also a wrestler. I got married, got pregnant, did that whole thing. We'd both been married twice, divorced twice. I had 4 kids. He had 2 boys. And after he had just gotten back from Korea, I had just separated from my ex-husband at the time. And we had gotten on Facebook and just started talking and just like, hey, what are you doing? And hey, old high school friends. And he had texted me and was like, hey, I'm going to be at home for leave. You want to just go hang out? I'm like, well, we'll see. I don't know. And he did. He came over. He showed up, opened the door, and was that gentleman. It was just like, okay, this is it. He's the one. He was literally my Prince Charming that I've been looking for. That's been in my life this whole time. And it was just magical. And we had one of those relationships and marriages where it's just like, oh, y'all go get a room. Like, y'all are making us sick. After almost 7 years, it was still that way. We still had that spark. We still dated. I was still his girlfriend after 7 years. And that's just how we did our marriage. And blending 2 families together, it was just like, it was perfect. our kids are bonded. They got along so well. His mom is the same age as my grandma. And so they became best friends.
That's
It
cool.
was, I mean, it's literally when you talk about a match made in heaven, and that's, now that's the hard part now is doing life without him and trying to figure out all those things and still having him in my heart and trying to honor him and going about life and trying to live the best I can the way he would want me to.
You were together for how long before he lost his life?
We technically started officially dating, made it official in our relationship August 1st, 2014.
Okay.
We then got married October 1st, 2016.
Okay.
So
And when did he die?
July 5th, 2023.
So
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about leading up to that, you finding out the news.
Kind of leading up to it, everything was going great. When he got out of the Army, he luckily had already a job lined up. He was a security director. I'm actually in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, so he ended up getting a job at a Marriott hotel in downtown Dallas, and he was their security director, which fit him perfectly. But again, he had never been in any kind of hospitality or anything. But again, that lined up with his personality. He did that. He actually opened they were still under construction when he got hired. So he went in, did his thing. They opened up. He worked there for almost 8 years. And January 2023, he did get a position over at another new hotel they were building. Again, Marriott. It was literally 5 minutes from where he was. He went in, and for the first couple of months, he was doing dual hotels. So a few days here, a few days there, till we can get this one open, till we get somebody trained over here to take his place. Top situation. The end of March 2023, he went fully over to the new Marriott hotel to work fully. They were still under construction. There was a lot of things going on. So he's a military police officer. He's a protector. He's not an IT guy. There were a lot of issues and stuff happening at the hotel and glitching and things not working right and whatever. And that was all on his shoulders. Because believe it or not, the fire stuff, the sprinkler systems, anything fire related is under security. All the key card stuff under security. There's things that's under security you wouldn't actually think about. That is, they were having a lot of glitching and all that. Of course, he was reaching out to their people, the elevator people, the fire department, the fire technicians to get things fixed. And they were kind of blowing him off. Well, we can get there in 2 or 3 weeks. All while the hotel was breathing down his neck saying, hey, we need to get this done. We need to open up. We've already pushed back grand opening once already. Now we're fixing to do it twice. And there's been a lot of pressure put on him. And he was struggling. He came to me about a week and a half before. And I knew he was struggling with the stress and not feeling able enough to do what he should be doing. He's competitive. He's, again, military. And to have that I'm failing feeling was nothing he's really felt before, other than, going through some divorces. But I just saw it. But again, I'm an Aries. I'm a fixer. I'm like, okay, babe, let's sit down. Let's get on these emails. Let's get these people to get out there, get this training, fix what the problem is, and whatever. He did that. And he had a meeting with the director of operations. I said, hey, how'd the meeting go? He's like, they basically are blowing me off. It was just a normal everyday meeting. So he was not getting the help and support he needed when he was telling them, this is what's wrong. I can't fix it. Trying to get these people out here to fix it. And nothing's being done. And I guess things end up progressively getting worse from there that he probably didn't tell me about. I just know after the fact, I was told it was a lot worse than what I thought or what I knew. And I think it just kept wearing on him. He had taken a 4-day holiday because we actually had his younger son in town for summer break. So he had taken a few days off. He was expected to go back to work that morning on the 5th. We had a great weekend. Going to Six Flags and going to the lake house and all the things that we'd normally do. And it was great. You can just still see some of the stress that he was carrying with all this and going back to work and like, oh man, we gotta figure this out now. Took a little break. Hopefully I'm rejuvenated. Let's get back and let's get it done. That morning was normal. It was text messages, phone calls. I mean, it was a little hectic. My daughter had doctor's appointments and back and forth for the lab for blood work. My phone service wasn't great. It was just, when I look back at it, it was like that morning was chaotic and crazy anyway. But I know he had gone into work that morning. I've been told a couple of different things. I know he allegedly had a meeting with the upper management, and his coworkers said that when he came down from that quote unquote meeting or whatever it was, his demeanor had completely changed. He was almost aggressive. He was in a bad mood, like he was not himself. And he's like, hey, dates changed, plans changed. I'm going to go take a pallet jack back, because he was responsible for the pallet jack because he rented it. He went to drop off the pallet jack back. The receipt was still in his truck. So I actually went to the place and questioned them and like, hey, what was his demeanor? Like, I'm a detective. I needed to figure out this. He dropped that off. They said, no, he was fine. Just came in, dropped it off. And he went back to the parking garage of the hotel, and he had texted his boys. He had texted his mom, like, I love you. He had made a text to, there was a text string of like 12 or 13 people that were in the hotel. I guess important people like the general manager, director of operations, the directors of the other different departments, and just said, third floor parking garage in my truck. And what killed me after I saw that is like, nobody responded to him. He had an old beat up '07 Dodge. Nobody responded to him at all and said, hey, you good? Truck's good? Like, nothing. He had texted a coworker, basically goodbye in my truck. He had tried to call me, and that's a big weight of guilt on my shoulders that I'm trying to deal with and work through with my therapist. And then he had texted me, third floor parking garage. This is too much. You're the love of my life. And those are the last words I got. And I guess this happened around 8:20 something in the morning. He was found about an hour later. So 9:30, 9 around there, going by the police reports. I didn't get a phone call till 1:20 that afternoon to know my husband unalived himself. He carried in his truck. He had easy access. And that was the worst day of my life.
I'm sorry to hear that. So what happens next in your realm of things? I mean, that's obviously, your world changes.
Yeah.
And now you've got all his kids, you have all these family dynamics you have to work through, and everybody has their own feelings of grief, their own feelings of his memories belong to them. You know what I mean? And that's kind of how at least arguments in a lot of the families that I talk to get started, is everybody has their own memory of the person, and everybody is just really itching to just grab a piece of it, and it starts becoming complicated. Did you come up with any complicated relationship issues because of this?
So I'll start with my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law. So with me and my husband, I've lost my mom. I lost my mom in 2015, kind of right as the time me and my husband were getting together. My mother-in-law is like a true angel. Again, her and my grandma are best friends. She's 80 now. And like, I'm basically her caretaker. So like, she can't toss me to the side, you know? But after my mom passed, she stepped in, and she was there when I needed something, because where I'm at, I'm kind of by myself. My husband, when we first got together, we spent the first 15 months apart. He was in Missouri. I was here in Texas. So she came in, we'd go out to eat. We'd do whatever. So I wouldn't say boundaries are her place. That maybe are the wrong words, but she knows, yes, she lost her son. He did everything for her. She very much depended on her. I'm kind of coming in and trying to fill that role as best as I can with my life, my kids, and everything else. So we still have an amazing relationship. And she's like, I know he was my son and I'm missing a lot, but he was your everyday, day to day. I know when you wake up, he's not there. When you go to bed, he's not there. So we have that, we have our places, and we respect that with each other. And I just know that when I'm really having a breakdown or really having a hard time, I know I can't call, and it may be something that needs to go to therapy and not her, because I know she's dealing with her own grief. So that's where, and again, I go to therapy. The first year I was doing it once a week. Now almost 2 years, I'm every other week. So I know if we're just wanting to remember something, or if we got plans, then we'll call and talk and maybe cry. But it's when it comes down that real hard nitty gritty, I can't depend on her to support my grief, and she can't depend on me to support her grief, if that makes sense.
It does.
Okay, so that's, I mean, and we're
It's hard.
already,
It's hard unless, I think, unless you've experienced your own certain type of just absolute devastating grief.
yeah,
It's hard to understand, to make room for somebody else's grief on the same exact person, because
right.
it is, like
And
you
my
said, it's,
mother-in-law is also a widow, so she knows.
wow.
And I was just having this conversation with my grandma last night. You know, again, she's an angel, and she's like, Natalie, I know you and Daniel were meant for each other. He was the love of your life, but no matter what, I want you to be happy. So, you know, and that's where I admire Ashley. Like, and so I'm like on her. I'm like, I'm not ready for all that right now, but when I am, she will be my biggest cheerleader. And I know that.
That's great. That's, I think it's a really hard thing for a lot of people to let me move on. And then I see, I've been interviewing several Gold Star families, and I see the attempt of some of these Gold Star family members, spouses, whatever, to move on. And especially with the TikTok or the creator communities, people really feel like they have an opinion on how you should move your life on, or how you should honor your husband, or whatever. And that to me is just appalling.
Yeah.
That people even feel like they can, I get it. It's the internet. It's the Wild West. People are going to say what they want to say. But I felt really terrible, because one of my interviews, she was smiling while talking about her husband. And I understood it completely.
Yeah, I get it, because I'll talk about Daniel, and as you're talking about them, you remember those fond memories that are gonna make you smile.
If they didn't make us smile, we wouldn't be here talking about
Right.
them and trying to, make a difference in their name. That blew me away. That just opened up my eyes to this, to realize that, like, we need to be talking about this more,
Yeah.
so that more people can understand it. It's so many layers to it. So your mother-in-law, you and her seem like you have a pretty decent understanding of everything else. Have you had any other issues with relationships?
No, I mean, with the kids, so like my oldest one is 26. He actually lives with my dad out of town and works with him. And my next one is 21, and he's high functioning autistic. We did have some issues with him. He didn't know how to process grief and death, because he lived in the house with me and my husband. And that was a lot of work in progress. I mean, literally, my child thought he was going to have a heart attack, because he had feelings. And if you know anything about autistic kids, he had feelings that he could not get out. Like, I literally had taken him to the doctor like 6 times. Me and the doctor knew what was going on, but trying to get it to explain it to him. But we finally kind of got him. He's in a better place now. So that was something that we had to kind of struggle with, because he didn't know. I mean, the kid has never cried, and he cried. He cried at my husband's funeral. The next one is my husband's oldest son, which he's my son at this point now. That whole issue in his whole childhood was very, what's the word for it? It was in turmoil, but there was a lot of parent alienation going on with the mother, where my husband didn't get to have that relationship with him. And once he graduated high school and he actually went over to the Air Force Academy, is when he was reaching out, and him and my husband were just now starting to build that relationship. I mean, the whole time we were married, we were going through court or dealing with her and trying to get visitation, and it just was a hard deal. So when he came to my house for the funeral and all that stuff, he got a good awakening on what was going on in his childhood, and that his dad didn't do the things his mom said. His dad tried, and that's where he opened his eyes, and he's like, he and his mom now at this point are not really on speaking terms, and are, what is that word called? No. And I have stepped in to be mom, because I was more worried about his mental health than she was worried about him just staying at the Air Force Academy. And I saw that in him every day. And I'm like, no, we got to do what we got to do. We want you to be okay. We're going to get through this.
Well,
And
then you
then
hear these statistics, like it's apparently it can be hereditary, right? Like if it happens to the father, there's more of a chance that it could happen further
so
down the line. They have to keep an eye on
with
it.
like Green Star families, you have the spouse and the children and the family that's closest to that service member. We have a 60% higher chance of, unaliving ourselves. And I mean, it's a whole separate thing, but I've been in that position myself. I had a complete breakdown on Tuesday where even after almost 2 years, I got back to that place. And I did have to pick up the phone and call somebody. So it doesn't just go away after a year or two, or I'm not there at 5 or 10 yet, but I know I'm almost at 2 and I still had that feeling of I literally went outside for 3 hours and sat in his truck and just cried because I couldn't do anything else.
And,
I have she's 18, she's in college now. She was going into her senior year when my husband passed, and the only girl, and so that was his girl. I mean, they butted heads and they fought, but man, if she wanted a Starbucks, he would go get it, and I mean, he spoiled her, and that was hard for her. I mean, their dad is around, but he wasn't a dad like my husband was. He's the one that got up and we went to volleyball and we did this and did that, and he's the one that taught all the kids how to drive. He's the one that did all the dad things, and he was there present as the dad. So, with my kids, it did hit real hard. Plus, again, they were still in the house. We all lived together. And then I have a now almost 17-year-old. He handled things his kind of own way. What he did is he was into fixing bikes and stuff like that. He just focused on fixing bikes, going out, rearranging toolboxes, and going through my husband's tools. And he kind of had his own thing, the way he dealt with things. And then the youngest one, he's 14 and he lives with his mom and down a couple hours south of where I'm at. I'm not sure. I try to do the best I can with him. I keep in contact with him. I've seen him a few times and I still get visits. I'm like, because no matter what, even though my husband's gone, we still have a bonded family. The kids are bonded. Me and my husband got together when he was almost 3. So I've raised him. I'm the only other than his own mom, the only other mom he knows. And so but again, it's harder when you're dealing with another mother and then trying to keep that, like we're trying to work together to see what his schedule is so I can get him for some visits this summer. But just because my husband passed doesn't mean we just disappear. We're still, and I do my best to keep me and the kids together and trying to get them together as much as possible. I know they're all over the place right now and they're all getting grown, but just trying to hold the family together, even though my husband's not here.
So what is your way of pushing forward, talking about it? Like, how are you trying to find your own place in this after everything?
So like the first year, I kind of dealt with a lot of stuff. I was dealing with the federal lawsuit. You're dealing with Social Security, you're dealing with the VA benefits, and just the fogginess of, is this real? What is my life now? Like, does this even, like, I still wait for him to come through the door. Like, it's still, and then putting my daughter through college, and that's a whole job in itself. So that's kind of all. We've got her settled in college. The lawsuit's over. The dust has kind of settled. And that's where I've been a mom and a wife since I was 18, just turned 45 in March. So not only are my kids getting grown and they're kind of doing their own thing, I'm at the turning point of, like, not only I'm stepping into a new, I guess, era of motherhood with older kids, I'm also not a wife anymore. And that's a hard balance to figure out. And that's what I do, a lot of praying, and I go to the cemetery. Like, the cemetery, he's at the National Cemetery, so that's my safe space. I feel that's where I'm at peace, more comforted. And I just ask and pray, like, what is my purpose now? I've really never worked a job or per se had a career. Let's put it that way. Being a mom has been my career. So just had been asking, what's my purpose? What's my purpose? What am I supposed to do? The kids are almost grown. And that's where I've really been fearful of my feelings and my grief. Like, okay, the kids don't need me anymore. I'm alone. That's where I've been scared of not being here myself anymore. Like now I'm useless type of feeling. So I asked, like, what's my purpose? What am I supposed to do? Because I have no idea at this point. And that's where all this literally, kind of just fell into my lap. My kids had talked me into getting onto TikTok and I got just scrolling, looking at whatever, how you get into TikTok. And then literally, I kid you not, I came across a veteran's TikTok page one day, and his TikTok page is Coop and Mike. And he has became a brother to me now. But I just early morning scrolling across, came across his page. He had mentioned something about the 22 a day and this and that. And I just commented like, yeah, my husband took his own life. And he's like, hey, I got a sister that you need to hook up with. Her husband just took his life. He was a Marine. And let me tell you, TikTok does its thing, and it went rolling. And then I end up in Green Star Families. So our founder had started Green Star in 2020 after he had lost some buddies and I think a cousin. He was on a live with me one night, and I was kind of just breaking out and kind of telling my story a little bit. And then we got in contact, and I told him my full story, and he's like, "No, I need you to get this going. This is what we're about." And that's kind of how it all started. And now I'm kind of like the face. I'm the one getting out there and doing the events, and he's in the background pushing the bills and writing bills and doing the political thing that I have no idea about. And it's taken off and it's going. So I'm excited. And again, I think my husband had a good play in this of, hey, this is what you need to do. I know you love me, and this is what you need to do. And it's been fantastic and wonderful. And I literally have a whole new family in this TikTok veteran community that I absolutely love and adore, and they've been such a support because they kind of know some of these women have been through it themselves, or my veteran friends have known somebody that has unalived themselves, and they've been in that part of it. So it's just been a big hug from the veteran community. So it's been amazing, and we're just gonna keep pushing and pushing and pushing until we get this Green Star service banner passed and federally recognized, and we can start getting federally funded and helping these families. I mean, like,
so what are
some of the things? Go ahead.
Federally funding for the families and stuff? What are the hopes for this type of program? What are you guys looking to accomplish?
So I have taken my own tragedies and the things that I've been through and the other stories I've heard just from women that have lost their husbands due to unaliving, not just even military, but just in this sense. And gotten with Matt and said, this is what I've been through. This is stories I've heard. This is what we need. So you're talking about trauma therapy. You're talking about, I mean, kind of really going to get into the nitty gritty. When my husband unalived himself, he was in his truck. The Dallas PD is like, you have to jump through hoops. I got his truck back, but they're like, here you go. Now you get to deal with the aftermath. That was pretty traumatizing. And then, of course, as we're trying to figure this out, my sister's on the phone, like, trying to figure out, like, biohazard cleaning companies and this and that. And she's like, yeah, they want $1,500 an hour. This specific company wanted $1,500 an hour. And and if it's not metal, they rip it out and you have to replace it and put it back together. We had just spent like $5,000 fixing the truck. And I'm like, so I took on that responsibility of cleaning out his truck myself. And that's where I'm like, we shouldn't have to do this. The police department should offer some kind of resources, or to come through Green Star and say, we offer resources, or we have a company that can come out and do it. Either they're going to offer their services for a Green Star family or get a discount rate, or we can come in and pay for it. Again, I have a family I started working with that had no idea about the National Cemetery. Their son was a 26-year-old Marine. They had no idea. And now they owe the funeral home $14,000. So I have a friend that's a national certified BSO, and I've gotten with her, and we're trying to figure out where we can pull some government money from to help recoup some of that. So it's just things like these. I mean, it's just story after story after story, and things I've been through, and the trauma, and so many things people don't think about in the aftermath of a unaliving. And I mean, that's one aspect. And then you get into how the widows feel, and then the kids feel. I mean, I keep saying this is just complicated. It's so complicated. It's so complicated. You have no idea. It's so complicated.
So he was out of the service for, was it 8 years, you said?
Yes. So he technically came home Thanksgiving 2015. He military. He had enough like leave added up where he got to come home early. And his official departure date was January 2026.
Were there signs leading up to this that, of PTSD? Did he mention anything that,
I knew he had PTSD. And again, that's where my story is a little different than most, is he didn't have the addiction issues. He didn't have the just outburst or the aggression or, that kind of thing that when you think of PTSD, a normal civilian would think about. He didn't have that. His was more like, it's getting a little too crowded in here, and grab me by the hand and just like, we're running through Costco. So if anybody wonders why I walk fast, that's why. I'm used to it. I mean, I saw him had one kind of more rough breakdown, but it wasn't outburst. He's like, babe, we need to go. I'm getting a little overwhelmed. This is not a good situation. Let's book it. I'm like, great, let's go. But yeah, I mean, looking back now and maybe looking at text messages and different things that he had sent me, because that's what you do after somebody passes. You go through everything with fine-tooth comb. There are different times in our marriage I saw maybe he was struggling a little bit or stressed out a little more than normal. But again, I always say I was a little bit more naive. Like, we had such a perfect marriage and we were happy. And again, we just acted like we were dating, that you miss those signs. Like, you don't think about the PTSD. Like, it couldn't happen to us. He would never do that. He loves me too much. He loves these kids too much. He loves his mom too much. His mom depends on him. You never think that. And that's where I kind of feel like I was naive to it. I was naive to it could never happen, because if I knew better, I would have done better. But I know I only did what I could with what I had. If that makes sense. Because we weren't together while he was deployed. We were together the last 15 months while he had a desk job, at Fort Leonard Wood. Yeah, so it was very unexpected. Again, I knew about the stress. I knew he was stressed, but I never thought in a million years that he would ever leave me like that. And I know that day, whatever happened, I have my own suspicions of what happened. I don't have proof, so it's not like I'm going to put it out there,
I understand.
I just know they made him feel like shit and feel like a failure. And that's not okay with me, because he was far from that. But, yeah.
Well, that's why we talk about this, right? So that the people that, maybe they're like, well, it couldn't happen to me.
It can't.
It can, and you need to, look after your people. That's what I say at the end of this podcast every single time. Just look after your people, right? Reach out to mom, reach out to whoever. Obviously these guys that had PTSD are struggling like hell. And thank God I track, like the treatment processes and stuff that they come out with these guys often, because I'm just fully ingrained in the military, life at this point, 19 years of being a Gold Star family. I get excited at finding out, things to treat our guys and help them out. And they're like, even if it's a psychedelic, who fucking cares? Let's let this work for these guys. They're living in hell. Let's give them a psychedelic if it's going to help fix. And those are like the hangups to me that just really piss me off. It's like, you're going to tell them they can't do this because they might get high for a few seconds, but they've been living in literal hell for years. And this could be that one thing that just, changes it. I'm so thankful too that it is opening up, and that more treatments are coming through. And that's the thing about like this new veteran family. Like, I'm seeing a different side of what these guys are going through, and the meds that they're pushing on them, and like all these different things. And but again, like I'm like,
we need you here. You don't want your family to go through what I'm going through.
And mental health in the country, I feel like within the past maybe 5 years, probably maybe a little more, has started to finally become something we can talk about
Right.
on every level. There's really nobody's too tough to talk about mental health anymore, thank God. But growing up, the military, especially 2006 timeframe is when I lost my brother. There was not a lot of mental health going on. My parents didn't really get the counseling that they needed for any of this. And I think that it's become so prevalent, especially now on TikTok, that it's not as hard for these guys to reach out and be like, hey, I do think I might need a little help. And it's not going to happen unless we keep talking about it. Share your feelings, talk about what actually happened, talk about real life, not cover up the dirty, nasty parts of grieving. We need to parade it and be like, hey, this is what happens. And, at the end of all this, to me, it's kind of a statement. I'm not being like, I don't want to come off as like a hippie or something like that necessarily, but this is like us being like, hey, before we think about coming into another war, let's look at how deep this all goes, the losses, the mental impact. Years after war, we're still dealing with the casualties. We're still dealing with the repercussions of it. Maybe let's pause. Maybe let's find another option before getting into that. And again, my brother he was an infantry officer. He believed in what he was doing. So I'm not saying we shouldn't stand up for ourselves. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm not saying we shouldn't be, the strong country we are. I'm just saying there sure is a lot of other things that we need to work on if that is a road we're going to go down again, is war, because the support system is not there.
My husband loved his service time, and he said, there's a few reasons why he went ahead and got out. He, because of the way it was turning, and, his mother was, is getting elderly. And then of course he wanted to be home with me, which if he wanted to stay, I would have been totally supportive of it. But I mean, you just know he always had that itch. Again, why he went to be a security director. And right before he passed, he was even talking about being a bouncer in Deep Ellum in downtown Dallas because he wanted that action. I'm like, and I was just like, and I told him, and this is kind of ironic in a way, but I told him, I said, there had just been a bad shooting down there. And I was just like, babe, I don't want you to do that. And I don't want something to happen to you. And then I have to live without you. And then this happened a few months later. So I was like, maybe I should have just let him do it. Maybe he needed that release and that adrenaline and but going back to kind of up to leading the things that that were happening, again, hindsight's 2020 now, but with the job change and all that stress that was going on, he hadn't worked out in like 3 months. He wasn't sleeping good. There was he had a medical stuff he was going through, and that was causing a little outside stress. So I just looked at it as like there was just these little like black cats that were getting ready to go off, and then it was the big thing, whatever happened that morning. So again, that's one of the things to always look for is sleep patterns, changing routines. Again, I wish I had seen the bigger picture, but I was in, la la land I had a great marriage. Like nothing could go wrong. And
I mean, you also had the responsibilities of being a mother too. You had other people you had to take care of. I mean, the responsibility can't fall on you.
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing with this new transition I'm going through now is like, I've always poured out. And again, being a mom, being a wife, I've never taken care of Natalie. And that's a new thing I'm trying to learn is how my kids are, again, older. They're driving, they're feeding themselves, they're doing whatever they want to do. They're working, and it's like, okay, now who's left? Me. I'm the only one I got to take care of basically myself right now. But how do I do that? Because I haven't ever done it. Being a widow is complicated. Like I said, losing your service member and your husband to unaliving in the 22-day is complicated. It's not just like you get through the first part, you find out they passed, you get through the funeral, and then we're done. Like kind of how I always feel is like once you get to that part and the funeral's over, we just get put to the side because it's taboo. Unaliving's taboo, and people don't want to think about it. People don't want to be reminded of it. And that's where I want to make a change. And I've always said, I want to be the face of the aftermath. I want to be the voice of the aftermath. It sucks. It really sucks. And I might have to find a way to balance that out where I'm not re-traumatizing myself all the time and being able to put my story in this out there. So
that's why it took me 19 years to end up doing this. That re-traumatizing thing, unfortunately, is a real deal, man. And it's one of those things where you can relive it constantly. It doesn't necessarily ever feel less. It just, you learn how to deal with it.
And that's, again, where I admire Ashley so much is now trying to find that bridge and cross that bridge of trying to move forward, honor my husband, keep him alive. I still love him to the moon and back. I mean, in my eyes, we're still married. I mean, I didn't choose that. I didn't go through a divorce. We're still married in my heart, and trying to move over that bridge and forward and to keep him with me and to do what I'm doing. That's why I go to therapy a lot.
Well, if we can help support your mission, we'll definitely do that as well on our side of things. Gold Star families and Green Star families, to me, are just really, it's a difference in timing.
Well, I have to if you're available in October, and this is something that just happened. I mean, we just, through an event, we got in contact with this guy here, and he's one of those guys that knows everybody, like literally. And I'm going to be a part, and Green Star Family is going to be a part of a big, huge softball celebrity and veteran softball tournament that he puts on here in Frisco, Texas every year.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And so they're going to honor Green Star families. They're going to honor my husband. And then he just told me the other day, he's like, no, I want you to play too. I'm like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
I need to go to the batting cage, and I haven't played softball since I was 18 in high school. So,
you got it.
Yeah, I'm about to dust off the cobwebs.
Well, that'll be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. So
awesome. Well, I will make sure that I'm keeping an eye on your page and sharing things for you. Natalie Brett is a voice we all need to hear. A woman who carries grief with grace and speaks her truth not for sympathy but for change. She reminds us that some of the deepest scars don't bleed and some of the strongest heroes lose their battles long after the uniform comes off. Daniel's death was a tragedy, but his life was filled with love, loyalty, laughter, and service, and Natalie is making damn sure the world remembers him for that. If this conversation moved you, don't let it stop here. Talk about it, share it, challenge the stigma, because silence is deadly, and stories like Daniel's can save lives. And now, like we always do, we raise a glass. To Sergeant Daniel Brett, a soldier, a husband, a father, a friend, a man who stood tall in uniform and still found the strength to be tender at home. To the love he gave, the burdens he bore, and the battles he fought long after the war was over. To Natalie, for her bravery, her honesty, and her fierce dedication to honoring him with truth. We raise our glass not only in remembrance, but in a call for action, so that no more families have to carry this weight in silence. To Daniel, to Natalie, and to all those still fighting battles we cannot see. Say their names. Sergeant Daniel Brett. A special thank you to our supporters for helping make these episodes happen. Terry Mullins, Danielle Mettle, Jackie Mullins, June Letendre, Edie Howard, Bob and Pat Scott. Your support means the world. If you would like to add your name to this list and support Gold Star Stories, you can visit goldstarStoriesUSA.com, donate via Cash App at Gold Star Stories, or buymeacoffee.com/Gold Star Stories. Thank you again for listening. And as always, look after your people. Until next time.